So, you're seeing a video today, but it's not listed as Road to MSI. No. And this isn't just your regular old vision denial video. I'm just giving it a different name. Hi, this is Clearing Vision, where we're going to clear MSI one day at a time. I am going to review every day of MSI. As I'm going to try to keep it up to date every single day, because there's less games usually on a day-to-day basis. So, fantastic. And for all of you who watched the whole series of Road to MSI, thank you very much. I tried to get it out as the whole thing right before MSI started, and I had it with 4 hours to spare. And because I was watching it all without any spoilers as much as possible, I had no idea that Vietnam couldn't go. So where previously the ranking looked like this, now it mostly looks like this. So, and this is going to change. And you're going to realize real quick, oh wait, I'm not just using names, I'm using the icons. Oh, editing me is going to hate me. It's whatever. I'll get over myself. So, this isn't going to be me taking an overview retrospective right now of Best of Fives, because there's only going to be 3 of them near the end, and I might also play out, watch them live and do some co-casting while it's happening. We'll see. It's a work in progress. But for now, in the same kind of general style as what this channel used to do with the original Vision Denial podcast for the World Championships of 2020, I'm going to review every game, one by one. That being said, let's start with the first game. And I'm going to make sound effects for myself because it's easier for me to edit, so you know. We got Damwon Kia versus Cloud9. Now, in the ranking list, the original one that I put here, Cloud9 is in 4th place. They would have been 5th place if Vietnam was here, but now I'm going to get it out of my system. They're in 4th place. And so, them being what I would have considered the highest ranking team amongst the Tier 2 regions, and there's only 2 teams in the Tier 2, it mostly came down to like execution, and there's only like 2 spots between them, right? It was like the 2nd place team versus the 4th place team in my mind, but like the gap between that is huge, like astronomically big, and they did almost as expected. So the biggest issue that I had coming in for Damwon is how are they going to play the early game, especially against regions who specialize in the early game. And coming into this, what was for Cloud9, what was going to happen as an early game team when they played against teams from regions that play late game very well or close games very well. And honestly, it went. Damwon tried things in the early game, were much more proactive. Cloud9 was playing better at it temporarily until near the 20-ish minute mark, and they lose out. Cool. Awesome. So, and I wish that I saw something else come from this. Like, there's a new meta. I would hope that at least their playstyle shifted a little bit, that as they were learning new champions, or at least picking up new things. And overall, in the grand scheme, I didn't see much of a difference throughout most of the teams all day, especially these 2 teams. Where I don't know where that early game clean play came from, the finals for Damwon, but it's not here today. But they are still on a higher skill execution than Cloud9, almost pound for pound, except for maybe the mid jungle, in which it was a little bit more competitive, but not enough to make a difference long term. And yes, before we go and say anything, sure, the Damwon Kia's bot lane is the weaker aspects to it, but I don't think it was notable enough for it to be brought up against Cloud9, whose bot lane I thought was, throughout the entirety of playoffs, mostly lackluster. Yeah, because Cloud9 also was a very topside focused team. And so it didn't, that kind of, the casters talking about it in that way didn't make much sense to me. Now, mind you, most of the videos that I did for playoff series are going to be, were like 15 minutes long, and this video will probably be longer, but each game I'm not going to try to like go on under more than a couple of minutes, because I could go through the same thing. And I'm going to mention this now as I'm finishing off this particular one. The vision in and of itself from both sides were pretty good. I preferred Damwon's, but that's to be expected. They play a lot more cleanly in the late game. Very efficient Baron and closing from Damwon. The second that they had a foothold, they were able to balloon the lead very quickly. And I had concerns while watching it that they weren't ballooning fast enough, as if maybe that they had hit a snag, or that there was going to be something wrong when playing against teams who are much more adept at playing early game. But then 20 minutes happened and they were able to win. They were able to balloon really quickly. That, and also I want to mention, it's the casters, and I haven't the chance to speak more on the actual individual pick and bans, because I don't have to complain about repetition, because it's not a best of 5. They can do whatever the hell they want and it doesn't matter. But Cloud9 not... The fact that Cloud9 did not pick Engage for their team really hurt them. It did not matter how well they were going to play the early game. If they were not going to close quickly, they were going to lose out to time. Literally. They have to face off against... What was it like here? 1, 2, 3, 4 forms of Engage versus their none, and a lot more burst. Didn't look very good for them. And as such, Damwon gets their first win. Cloud9 is down to a loss. There it is. Alright. Next. What? That was terrible. What? Where's my sound? Ah, there it is. And sorry for headphone users, if that's a problem. I'm pretty sure my volume isn't that loud with this, but like... Next, we've got your Detonation Focus Me versus Gillette's Infinity, and my god, am I so happy. In my Road to MSI series, when I watched the finals for Latin America, I was so upset by the play that was portrayed in there. Because Latin America as a region is creative, much more consistent. Like, they play chaotically, but they're much more consistent in terms of the way that they close and that they're able to play out their compositions. But yeah, I was kind of happy to see that my concerns in putting them into last place were met with like almost enthusiasm. And honestly, how close these two teams were, starting off earlier on, great. I think that it's weird though that their pick and ban was very stock standard to the 11.5, 11.6 meta. The only region again playing 11.7 was Russia, so like most teams played on the 11.5, 11.6 meta. So it's really weird. Very impressed with the jungle tracking out of Detonation Focus Me, but Infinity also, good job with their vision and tempo lead. Mostly early game. Infinity has what it looks like to be better individual players in terms of skill. They kept getting leads during the laning phase, and it was a fairly close game. I think it's weird that neither team had priority over Dragon, and that's a concerning trend that I saw during the day. Low priority on Dragon tends to mean that teams are focusing on late game play first and foremost, and if they focus on that, teams like Damwon, RNG, Mad even, are going, even like Cloud9, any team that like has any early game or any ability to close out games quickly will, how do I put it? will beat you out regardless of how you plan to get the dragon later on. All you're doing is you're dragging away your ability to gain small leads over time. Was not a fan of it. Detonation Focus Me was really consistent at playing to their win condition, but they weren't fast enough. And again, that's the same thing. If you're not fast enough to it, eventually the one team is going to either outscale you or they're going to be able to outpace you and get to their win conditions faster. There's some good awareness out of Infinity in this game. Can't complain very much about it. Fantastic. And oh right, I'm really bizarred out by how poorly Detonation Focus Me had their team fight setups, considering how that was one of their strengths in Japan. Granted, like, Japan doesn't have a very big team fighting region. It's a lot about picking small skirmishes and trying to get leads in that way. So I was very surprised that as a team that thrives on the chaos of team fighting, that they had very poor awareness of it. But Infinity took advantage of it, and they were able to cleanly close. And that's what I appreciate, that at least when they got the Baron and they were able to close, they did it quickly and effectively. Good job. So Infinity gets one, and Detonation Book to me is on one loss. Beautiful. Next. Hey. I might get rid of the sound if I think it's annoying. Maybe. So now we got Royal Never Give Up versus Pentnet GG. So Pentnet GG is the team I would have put in last place for sure if it wasn't for the way that Gillette Infinity played during their playoff finals. That being said, this is still near last place versus first place, and it went exactly as expected. I'll give credit where credit is due. Pentnet do have creative drafting, or at least they have very flexible drafting, where they're able to have like a lot of different options that they can pick from, because they're more prepared to just dish something out and try it, or they practice a lot of different variety of things. But I think that's a detriment to themselves as well, because they don't play as many games as LPL does, and they try to pull this off against an LPL team. And Royal Never Give Up, and the casters mentioned that like Pabu has like a huge champion pool, but then like briefly on the aside went, yes, but like so does RNG, because they're in the LPL and they play like a bajillion games. Well, yeah, of course. The more games you play, the more you're going to have options to try different things out. And so this was not a point to try and be like sneaky with it. Granted, it's a new meta, day one. Being like fancy pants is even encouraged, right? So interesting. The problems that I have with it, however, is that again, lack of engage, like severe lack of engage, really hurt them. And the fact that they are not a very good closing team does not help. Good on them, however. So RNG had a lot of engage on their side, and they have tried to like put it in from second one. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. They have a very nice level 1 play, very clean, set up on good jungle tracking, but they realized that they were very aggressive way too early, and Pentnet correctly punish. And I'm the harshest towards Australia because they have skillful players. Like, there's a reason why North America still like imports Australian player or oceanic players into the league, because like they do have skill going there. They just don't seem to have the coordination, or there's like something missing throughout the entire thing. And it was clearly punished here, because like every neutral objective set up, RNG was there first. Easy peasy. They were able to balloon leads via laning faster even than the previous the Infinity game. Like, incredible to look at. And honestly, I'm happy to see that Pentnet did try to be proactive. they were just way too late at it. Let's see, what was the timer exactly? If I can pull it up on my notes. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was a 17-minute mark. At that point, it was way too late. And that's when Wei got a quadra kill. And because of it, you know, RNG cleanly closes with a Baron. And so, no complaints. RNG is going to cleanly close things. It's to be expected. I don't expect in this entire group stage, because I think RNG, luckily, didn't have to face against a Vietnamese team that would have been in their group, where they probably would have had a harder time to face off against. Alright, this is the last time I harp on it, because, like, God, man, it's my favorite region, and they got snuffed out of another international opportunity. That's the third one in a row. I mean, like, everybody got snuffed out of the first one, but, like, then they couldn't go to Worlds, and then MSI, and I really hope they get to go to Worlds this year, because, like, that region keeps getting better and better. That aside, yeah, I expect RNG to keep up. So, mostly when I'm going to look at these games, I'm going to look about how, Unicorns and Pentanet play off of RNG from this point on. Unless something notable that I'd tell from this. Alright. So yeah, RNG is up 1-0, and Pentanet is down 1. Off to the next one. We've got ourselves... Ooh, right, because it's a group of 3, we get to see the Pentanet guys one more time. So we got Unicorns of Love versus Pentanet GG. And here, I think that Pentanet really took to heart what they had experienced with the Royal Never Give Up against RNG and put it into their composition. Great. Unicorns of Love, however, did a thing that did also this similar thing where they were able to focus on early game play from their drafting. They had set up something easy for them to approach. And honestly, sweet, good job. And I saw a trend, and I'm really happy to see it because this wasn't a thing universally. Some regions had teams that would place vision in key areas to be able to track the enemy junglers throughout their early first 2 to 2.5 clears. And a lot of the smaller, lower tiered regions weren't doing that, or weren't doing it as frequently. And honestly, I'm very happy to see an upswing in that behavior. Now, of course, this is gonna happen. This type of upswing in like skill and behavior from macro play happens in international plays all the time, but it usually takes a little bit longer for it to be picked up. I'm happy to see that, like, this is game 4 and we're 4 for 4 on it, or game 5. No, it's game 4. 4 for 4 and for like early level jungle tracking. Love it. UOL also pretty solid at ballooning leads, which is not a thing that I was expecting out of this team. They have usually a harder time ballooning things consistently from the way that they're playing in their series in the LCL in Russia. And both sides, however, had very sloppy setups, regardless of who had the tempo and who was keeping it up well. And it really bothered me, because again, it was more like that skipping steps. You don't need to skip steps, right? You don't need to prove that you can be as fast as RNG. You become that fast if you make sure that you pull off all the steps, because you don't have to repeat them again and again and again and again. The less often you have to repeat them, perfect, so don't skip any of them. PGG, unfortunately, despite the fact that they had picked a composition that clearly had affected them from the way they played against RNG, were not using it efficiently. They kept using their AoE engages and like zone setups defensively or as like setups to like pick one person, and it was really unfortunate because they showed a lot of hesitation from the way they were playing. Um, Unicorns of Love also their tempo play was really slow for me, and I thought it was I didn't like it, to be quite frank. But I can say that honestly, I thought they at least closed pretty well. So like 4 for 4, people pick Barons and close quickly. Fantastic. So that makes it that UOL is up 1 and Pentanet GG are down 2 games. It's okay, Australia. You'll get your chance a year. It sucks that you lost your funding that year, eh? And I'm not trying to tease it. It really sucks. Alright, on to the next one. This is my least favorite game. And, like... And I like both of these teams. Like, there are things that they're doing that I don't necessarily like. But... This, by all accounts, should have been Istanbul. This should have been... Okay, I'm going to call them Fast Pay Wildcats, despite the fact that the Istanbul Wildcats... Ugh, a terrible name. I'm going to call them the Wildcats. So the Wildcats pick up a fairly good team composition, and honestly, I like the team composition that Payne also brought. I have a big issue with the way that Udyr is being utilized now. The jungle clears are no longer as thorough or as quick, and so having a champion that has that kind of movement speed to make up for it does not seem to aid you as much as it does now in later parts of the game. So I'm wondering if maybe like day 2 or 3 they're going to abandon the Udyr pair across the board, because this didn't really help them all that much, despite the fact that late in the game they were able to like come back and win, and pretty well. It starts with a pretty chaotic, and this is also the first time that I think I saw both teams not opt into jungle tracking, and that immediately put like red flags for me. I just realized something here. Okay. It was very chaotic. This particular game felt more like when I was reviewing the Vietnamese game and I pretended to be somebody else and asked, "But like, was the Vietnamese series like random fight for random fights, or like controlled, calculated fights that needed to have like their short timing windows?" Well, this one is the random fights for random fights' sake, and so the Wildcats. So one, props to Payne. There's a lot of props to Payne here. They're consistently proactive throughout it. They're just not very good. They, or how do I say it? They're very sloppy with their approach. They very much are a reminiscence of a late game team as opposed to a I don't know. Yeah, they're very much a reminiscence of a late game team. So like the fact that they were proactive for this early game, great, solid, 2 stars, or 2 thumbs up, 5 stars. The issue that comes with it in terms of their setup for a lot of the plays that they wanted to pull off, and not a big fan. I really can't say I'm a big fan. Wildcats, however, on the other hand, played the first like 20 minutes of this game near flawlessly. They had solid vision. Okay, not flawlessly. I'm exaggerating and embellishing a little bit because this honestly is a major comeback out of errors from Istanbul Wildcats, or from the Fast Play Wildcats. God damn it. From the Wildcats. Because they had very good tempo and then they slowed it down when they should have been upping it. And they kept playing in this way that clearly they saw a need to be fast and clean with the way that they were approaching their leads and their win conditions for the first 15 minutes. And then once they got that lead, they meandered with it as if they did not know what the next step was. And given the fact that they are a team that closes much better than the... That's why I ranked them higher than Unicorns, because they had very much similar playstyles, but Istanbul could close better. This really shows me of another side of this. And it's really bad. It's kind of disappointing more than anything else. Now, Pain Gaming realized a lot of this particular type of mistake. And honestly, fantastic. They played out their late games fairly well. It's still kind of haphazard. The vision is really shoddy across the place. And Pain showed that they were also having a hard time closing. And this game is not great. Like, at the end of this particular episode, I'm going to... these two ranking lists that I have over here, or the ranking list that's just split in two, I'm going to refresh it and show how they, like, how it was moved around from, like, one to the other. Cool. And this is the only game where I didn't have one team stay or one team go up and one go down. It's the only one where I have both teams go down. Yep, it doesn't matter if you win or not. If I don't think your win was based off of anything that was, like, shows that you could do as well against other teams or other higher ranking teams, then not great. Yeah, I just want to see Pain get better priorities on the ways to end game, and I want to see them be more consistent and better at the proactivity in the early game. And I think they need to stray away from playing bot side. And not because BRTT is not good. I think it's because they're gonna most opponents are gonna face off against their bot side, and so straying away from that might help, especially if you're gonna keep picking late game carries from. So with that, Pain still won. Nice, you're already in a great leap from here. So Pain is up one, and Wildcats are down one. To the final one. We've got a really interesting take. A really interesting game for, like, a myriad of different reasons. The first being that I personally think this was the closest between the two. Meaning that based off of the way that I see this ranking list, I see Cloud9 equally as close as... I don't like saying it. I see Cloud9 as close as Mad Lions as Paris Saint-Germain. Now, there's a caveat. There's a big star here, right? I do think blow for blow, minus maybe the first 5 minutes of the game, Mad Lions is better. And I think Paris Saint-Germain play almost as well, if not equally as so, but with, like, players that are not always super coordinated. And the casters put it out, right? Paris Saint-Germain, or PSG Talents, have a region that was not very competitive to them. It was competitive with itself, but they were a cut above everybody else. And that's just the nature of the PCS. I've mentioned they have like a wide stream of like very low quality to very high quality teams. That being said, that doesn't stop that, you know, they could have been a little better. Now, also caveat, they're playing with a substitute. Unified is unable to play for illness, as far as I remember. And so they had Doggo. And Doggo's a fine player. But PSG's identity largely revolved around the way that they played with Unified. And I think it didn't affect too much their approach to the game, but it really showed that the way that they were approaching their team fights was affected from it. I think that the fact that both of these teams picked a very similar type of composition, like bar for bar, is hilarious to me. The difference being that there's very low damage options that exist. Again, having Doggo be your damage option when you're not used to him, don't think is the wisest of move for your first day. I don't think you would have been able to replicate the same kind of thing when you had to do this exact same thing, but with your mid-jungle duo for Worlds. So, like, you know, I get that you probably needed to have comfort for him, but you need to put damage elsewhere also. And Mad Lions picked what I think is a very risky composition. I don't like the Udyr. Again, I hope it phases out from favor in the next couple of days. But there was also very like situational engage that exists with this composition, and it was pretty awkward to follow up with any of it. Now, fantastic on PSG for their level 1 in jungle evade and like keeping track of it. Both teams were proactive. PSG often had overstep moments, which is to be given. Again, the lack of coordination comes from when you have a substitute and that you're not used to playing against a team that's as competitive. Fantastic wave manipulation out of Mab, and honestly, vision is pretty serviceable. It could be improved, but that would be nitpicky at this point. I wrote down at some point that Mad should be able to close at 7k gold. Great. They had pretty good neutral setups out of Mad Lions. I'm happy to see that at least they're, you know, sticking with the fact that they are a tier 1 region. I would have hoped that they were more clean and more decisive when facing off against any of the lower tier regions to really sell on that fact. Otherwise, I just think that they're like the kid who just turned 18 going to the adult table type thing. Not to be demeaning in terms of that sense, because Europe still has like pretty good results. They had they had finals performances that Korea didn't have for 2 years in a row at some point. But you know, at this current moment with the mid-season, it really feels like Mad Lions is like the adult kid compared to the Damwon and Royal Never Give Up. And yeah, they had an efficient Baron and an efficient close, a very clean close from it. Granted, they were 11k ahead, so I really hoped that that was going to be the case. But you know, good on them. And with that, Mad is up 1 and PSG is down 1. Given all of that, here is what I think the update to it. And again, take this with a grain of salt. My original tier list was based off of the 76 playoff series that existed that I watched. Like that's like a month of watching games and researching and like writing notes and comparing and contrasting. And this is literally a day of all of them playing best of ones. But sometimes that can have an effect. So there's not going to be a huge amount of map movement between it all. So let's see. Is there? I'm just gonna. So the top 5 don't change here. Unicorns go up 1 and Istanbul go down 1. Gillette go up 3. Detonation, Pentanet, and Pain all go down 1. Yes. Yeah, pretty much. And this is mostly just a slight reshuffle, because the Unicorns had a better close, and I think were more adept at the way that they were facing off against Pentanet than Istanbul was at facing Pain, and they were having a similar distance in terms of skill, right? Both of them were tier 2 against tier 3 teams. And Gillette impressed me. You guys let me know in the comments down below what you think. These are going to be longer videos because I'm reviewing full days. When they're going to be the best of 5s, they'll go back to about the 10 to 15 minute mark again. And if there's not much to talk about in any of these, you know, we'll just be a very quick blurb and blah, blah, blah. If the sound annoys you, the little thing that I do, maybe I'll make it quieter or I'll get rid of it. Either or. But, you know, let's see what day 2 brings us. It hasn't happened yet. I'm recording this literally as the day was done. I'm really happy to be caught up with these guys. Yay. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'm going to be putting on over here a playlist of the Road to MSI with all the 76 playoff series that I watched. Oh god, I can't do the air. All the 76 playoff series. And I'll see you in the next one. Or see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.